There are places in America where the map simply ends. Places where the silence isn't peaceful. It's predatory. Blackwood Ridge, 3,000 acres of untamed wilderness, and the final resting place of the Miller family secrets. October 14th, 1998. David Miller, his wife Sarah, and their two children, Emily and Michael, packed their car for a weekend camping trip. They were happy. They were normal. Witnesses saw them leave town at 5 p.m. The local gas station attendant said David bought fuel and a map. That was the last verified sighting of any of them alive. By 8 p.m., a storm of historic intensity battered the ridge. Roads washed out. Power lines snapped. The woods became a cage. When they didn't return on Monday, nobody panicked initially. But by Wednesday, the silence from the ridge was deafening. The search began. It took 2 weeks to find the car. It was 3 miles from the nearest road, deep in terrain that no vehicle should have been able to traverse. The doors were open. The keys were in the ignition. The tank was half full, and their wallets? Untouched on the seats. They didn't flee a robbery. They fled something else. 300 volunteers, helicopters, thermal imaging. They combed every inch of that forest grid. They found nothing. Not a footprint. Not a fabric scrap. The sheriff at the time called it a tragic accident. He closed the file 6 months later. But he ignored one piece of evidence that didn't fit. A disposable camera found buried under the rear tire. It would take 20 years for technology to recover the photos inside. And when they finally saw what was on that film, they realized the Millers weren't alone in those woods. That photo changed everything, because the figure in the trees wasn't human, or at least not anymore. The sheriff looked at this photo and called it a trick of the light, a glitch, but he lied, because the Millers weren't the first to see the watcher. I dug into the archives of the Blackwood Gazette. 1974, 1982, 1989, every 7 years, someone vanishes on that ridge. Always in October. I found a witness, a local who lived near the trailhead. She told me she heard the Millers' car that night, but she heard something else stopping them. It wasn't a bear, she told me, and it wasn't a man. It sounded like screaming, but the screaming was coming from the trees themselves. Here is the police log from that night. 8:45 p.m. A 911 call came in from David Miller's cell phone. The reception was poor, but the transcript exists. David didn't ask for help. He was begging for mercy. He kept repeating one phrase. It's mimicking us. It's using Emily's voice. The call was traced. It didn't come from the car. It came from 3 miles deeper in the woods, from a location that wasn't on any map, a Cold War fallout shelter. The police never searched the shelter. They said it was sealed, but when I went there last week, the lock was broken from the inside. We're going in, because whatever took the Millers might still be down there. The air inside that bunker didn't just smell like dust and rust. It smelled like copper, and something biological, something that hadn't breathed fresh air in decades. This wasn't just a fallout shelter. The markings on the walls were in a language I didn't recognize. Mathematical equations mixed with anatomical drawings, not human ones. I found them in the main ventilation room, the Miller family's backpacks, neatly lined up against the wall, like they were waiting for someone to come back for them. In the surveillance hub, I found a tape still on the reel. It was dated October 15th, 1998, the day after they vanished. I pressed play. It was David's voice. At first, he was praying. Then he started laughing. But the laughter, it didn't sound human. It sounded like a million different voices screaming at once. The recording ended with a sound I can't describe. A sound of tearing metal and wet tearing. That's when I realized the watcher wasn't an animal. It was a predator that fed on identity. At the end of the hall, the floor just stopped. A vertical shaft, miles deep, carved with impossible precision. And from the bottom, I heard Emily's voice calling for help. She's down there, and I think she's waiting for me. I climbed for an hour, or maybe a day. Down here, time doesn't exist. There is only the damp cold and the hum, a low frequency that vibrates in your teeth. When I hit the bottom, I didn't find a cave. I found a city, not built by men, built by something that remembers when the earth was young. They were all here. The hikers from 74, the hunters from 82, and David Miller, suspended in amber, dreaming. They weren't dead. They were incubating. Emily, I called out. She turned around. Her face was perfect, too perfect. like a porcelain doll that had memorized a human expression. "Why are you crying?" she asked. Her voice wasn't coming from her mouth. It was coming from inside my head. "We aren't hurting them. We are fixing them." That's when I felt it, the cold moving up my arm, and the memory returning. I didn't come here to find them. I came here because I belong to them. The silence of Blackwood Ridge isn't empty. It's patient. It waits for you to listen. And now, I can hear everything. The file on Blackwood Ridge is closed for now. But there are more cases waiting in the dark. If you crave stories like this, hit the like button and subscribe to Deep Case Stories.